Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the RotoWire After Dark Champions League show. My name is Jack Burkart. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Burkart, joined as usual by Ryan Belongi at Ryan Belongi. And folks, we have our quarterly visit from Mo Hendy here. Mo is in the house repping Liverpool of all teams. I'm starting to think Mo's not a Tottenham Hotspur fan, everyone. He's just a flavor of the week type of
it's gotta be solid.
fan.
Is
it solid? Oh,
it is
go.
solid. It felt, appropriate. He is the guy who ended up beating y'all on the slate today. So, I just wanted to really bring that message home,
Just, you're fired, Mo, even though you're here on a volunteer basis, strictly. Folks, before we get into the Wednesday slate, we are going to break down what happened in the Tuesday slate. And, Ryan, I'm a little bit tilted. I was whining backstage. I'm like, I played well and lost. I'm not mad. I played well and lost. I played a lot of Dortmund guys who were the best spot of the slate with the implied goal odds. Ryan, my reasoning at forward was there weren't many floors to be had, so I was just going to play guys most likely to score goals. So in cash, I ended up with Girassi. I played Bayer, and then I played Julian Brandt in my flex. In midfield, I played Gross and Engels, who I thought were cash locks. And then I played Grimaldo. I thought Grimaldo or TAA was a good play. Juan Miranda was cheap, and I was able to spend up at goalkeeper. Ryan, I'd play the game again. I'd play the same exact lineup again. I think the thesis was right to hunt for goals here, and it just wasn't my run out. Am I coping, Ryan?
Not too much. Maybe a little bit of cope. It might be Vinny was a pretty good play today. Might be optimal to get there. I stacked Dortmund too. It didn't go well. I didn't play Engels. Well, I didn't end up with Engels either. I see on that lineup on the screen. I played a lot of Engels. I don't know why he didn't end up in my cash lineup. So something I said on the pod yesterday. Sometimes my brain just breaks, and all my favorite Engels lineups had 1,500 plus salary left on the table. And I just wasn't feeling it. So I just I'll put another Dortmund guy in. I had looked at Engels logs. See, he's been getting subbed in the 60s sometimes. I think he got subbed in the 60s today, but happened to get an assist. So I don't think it was too bad. If you're gonna fade a center midfielder on an underdog who gets and I didn't even fade, but so yeah, Jack. I don't know if it's a cope. I stacked Dortmund too. It feels bad. There were other good spots on this slate. So to just focus on one so much, I don't know, but flipping the cards and seeing the ownership felt okay with it. But then, they didn't come out and smash. So, I don't know how many times you run the slate, how many times are they going to come out and smash, and how many times the game looks like that. That's what would tell you if it's the right move or not. Yeah, I don't know. An annoying day. I got crushed today. I full blanked both slates. Took a tough beat in NFL last night. Thought there was quite a few injustices in NFL over the weekend. So, a little bit melancholy, but I think having Mo on might be just the elixir we need.
Mo is here to fix all of the bad vibes. Ryan, I thought some guys on Dortmund were too low owned. I think you could get Meyer sub 20% in a really good spot. I played Sabitzer and King of the Pitch to play Vinny Jr., so that was a little swap off my cash team. Vinny Jr. was a great play. I called it on the show. Emerson Royale cynically fouled him in the box, and he ended up converting a penalty and then getting quite a bit of floor at the end. So we did benefit from game scripts, but with Real Madrid struggling, that type of thing can happen. I mean, he's a player who can get there in a multitude of ways. Mo, I don't know if you studied the slate at all. We need your verdict, though. Do we run bad, or should we have opened our brain beyond?
No, I like the way that you guys played. I think it makes sense in kind of this version of the Champions League with 7 games and all that you go beyond just locking in the floor plays or the plays that are likely to get lots of sets and find the game that you think is going to smash and stack it. And that's what you guys did. And Dortmund, as the chat, noted repeatedly, just completely flopped chance after chance. I mean, you just look at Gross's numbers today, which I saw and I was like, that is absurd. 23 crosses, 6 chances created. And that they just weren't converting. And on a day when they convert, these totals and these outcomes look very different. So nature of the beast is how it goes. I don't think either of you guys played this wrongly or in a way that I would critique significantly.
All right, really good job on that ad read, Mo. You nailed it verbatim. Let's hop on to Wednesday's 7-game slate. It's an interesting one overall. We have Barcelona on the road against Red Star Belgrade. They're 80% favorites even on the road, a 2.61 implied goal total, so that's really big. But lagging just behind them in Bayern Munich with 75% win odds. They're at home against Benfica. They have a similar implied goal total, so these are going to be two very popular spots to attack. But I think there's some other interesting games. I mean, Feyenoord against Red Bull Salzburg. I think Feyenoord has some cheap plays that are worth considering. PSG against Atletico Madrid, Ryan's favorite team, Atletico. Surprised by how big favorites they are, but maybe that reflects more how Atletico maybe are disappointing. And it's a home game for Paris, and it's 56%. So not outrageously big favorites. And then we enter some toss-up territory, a game with a high implied goal total, VfB Stuttgart, who's put up some big floor performances this season in Champions League, against European kings Atalanta, who are really good at stifling what teams do best. So that'll be an interesting matchup. Sparta Prague is against Brest, and then Inter Milan is against Arsenal in a game which might have absolutely no offense whatsoever. Mo, you said that you had strong opinions when you opened up the slate, and you're a special guest, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, I was kind of debating whether I would launch into this rant now or later, but since you opened the floor, I'm happy to do it. This slate, as I looked at the options, was very frustrating for me because every attacker that I want to play has been designated as a forward on this slate. I mean, you just look at Barcelona's lineups, you'll get Bayern's lineups, you'll get Feyenoord's lineup, and all of these guys, and even going further down. I mean, Martinelli is a forward. Actor Koglu is a forward. Like, look, there's an argument for all these guys to be designated as such, but like every single person who plays with like at over half of their time or whatever in the final third of the pitch has been designated as a forward, and it leaves you, in my opinion, with limited midfield options. So I was a little frustrated about that. And it'll be a running theme of my comments today, just, forewarning. But that gripe aside, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting because my initial sense is that I think Barcelona and Bayern are a little over projected in their win probability. I think these are a little bit tougher matches than the odds reflect. I think there are other good spots that I'll be very interested in. And I think, whoever wins tomorrow will be the one who understands that and exploits it. So those are my initial thoughts.
Ryan, what did you think?
Yeah, I had similar thoughts. Most of the guys you want to play are forward. I mean, Barca have 3 forwards and Bayern have 3 forwards, all good plays. Raphinha, Lewandowski, Yamal, and then Kane and Musiala and whoever else it's going to be is a forward. And then there's other good forward, like Feyenoord are going to have a couple good forwards. If you get Paixão starting, and they're going to have a cheap center forward who scored a goal over the weekend.
Former MLS.
You can use cheap
Julian
forwards.
Carranza plays in Feyenoord.
Wow. Yep. And they have Jimenez out and Ueda out. And Carranza scored over the weekend. He's going to start again here. So, there's really good expensive forward plays, and there's some value at midfield. So that is a construction, but there's not that many good midfield plays, and a few guys like you could spend up for, to where maybe using cheap forwards, would be okay. Danny Olmo is going to be there, Olise is going to be there, Kimmich, some other guys even. So yeah, I think it's pretty interesting from a construction standpoint. And then the games, kind of agree with Mo about, the 2 up top. Barcelona's just been so good that I don't really think it's a tough spot for Barca here. And Bayern too have been scoring a ton of goals, especially Kane in crazy form. So the totals do make sense, but Benfica is still decent opposition. Yeah, Bayern are kind of a thorn in my slate, or in my side. These slates, I want to fade them. Try to talk myself into it. This one is probably going to be another one of those spots for the most part. Tricky slate though, because all the 10 great options at forward, and obviously you can only play 3 of them.
Yeah, it doesn't feel fun for cash games almost immediately because kind of just gambling. I don't know. It's a cop out type of answer, but I don't know. Like, there's not as much strategy with using your positions, and you're just going to have to find the guy who's going to end up scoring goals overall, I think. I agree with the analysis that the midfield position is weak. I mean, Olise's 9,900, but he's not playing more than 70 minutes in his starts this season. Kimmich, you don't have to play him in this slate, especially when there's going to be a lot of goals in this biggest slate. Kane and Lee, he might not even start 7,400, but I mean, do you really want to do that? And so it kind of starts going down. Like, do I want to play Hakan Çalhanoğlu at 6,500? So we kind of see what sort of construction we're being funneled into right away. We'll lead it off with the forward. Mo, tell us your favorite forward plays. When I made my dummy lineup, I just I was feeling high tea, and I just put in Lewandowski and Harry Kane. I mean, there's a good option to be made for Raphinha at 10,200, taking some sets. I got a little bit spooked, though, because I saw that Pedri was taking some set pieces. So I found that a little bit annoying, but it's probably not that big a deal. You're probably going to be looking to play at least 2 expensive forwards. Mo, take it away. What do you think of the forward position from an optimal point of view?
Yeah, I'm kind of similar to Ryan in that when I look at Bayern, my initial reaction is, it'd be great if I could get away with fading this team. Kane is, however, just absolutely on fire. His specialty is beating, weak teams, beating up on weak teams, and this fits, that mold perfectly. My thinking, as Ryan said, is that Benfica isn't just any other weak team. They're a decent team that, looking at their form in the Portuguese league is actually doing just fine. But that's the Portuguese league, and this is Bayern. So I think Kane is somebody I'm really interested in. Musiala is perfectly good as well, but it's just going to come down to, is that where I want my other forward spot to go? And then on the Barcelona side, I had the same thought about Raphinha, that price is really high when sets seem to have been taken from him. But then he scored like a hat trick last week and made it all irrelevant. I don't think that's going to repeat here. I also think playing away to Red Star, their home is intimidating. I think Barcelona will win, and I'm sure they'll do fine. But I do think it's not going to be a smash spot in the way that playing against away to any other weak team would be. So I think Kane is somebody I have a lot of interest in. The Feyenoord forwards I have a lot of interest in. The limitation there is just going to be, what do I end up doing with the salary, right? Because initially my first thought was, I love these prices. And then I looked at midfield and I was like, what am I going to do with these savings? Because we've already covered Olise, but Dani Olmo is playing 60, 70 minutes, is that a risk you want to take? He's not on sets the way he was at Leipzig, so it gets even riskier. So I think that I'm going to be in the mix for those forwards, the Barcelona, Bayern, and Feyenoord forwards. But again, just really have no idea what I'm going to do with midfield if I decide to go a cheaper route. Ryan, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I see that Raphinha took all 8 corners over the weekend and Pedri took 0. I know I saw what you got, they split in sets here and there, but I think Raphinha would be my number 1 forward. Just been in incredible form. And if Mo's right about these spots, then I think the center forwards tend to suffer sometimes. So I'm really not worried about 1 goal for 10K. Fine options, obviously. Kane in incredible form. I mean, one of those 2 guys is probably going to score a brace, maybe a hat trick. So obviously they're fine in any format. I think Yamal's okay too for 7,800. Definitely. I would play him over any of the Bayern guys just because of minutes. I worry about the minutes. I think all of Bayern is healthy now, and they like to sub at 60 minutes, like, everybody except Kane and Kimmich. For tournaments, I think Lookman is elite. I think that game, little mini stacks in that game, is great for tournaments. Lookman had a brace over the weekend. He dropped like 50 DraftKings points on the last Champions League slate. And I think he's probably not going to be owned here. He can't be with the guys we've talked about already. The Feyenoord guys, same thing Mo said, just like, what are you going to do with the money? It might be a way to play Kimmich if you want to do that. It's certainly a way to play Olise or Almo. There's no way Almo is going to play longer than 65 minutes, so that's a big risk. He went 56 over the weekend. That was his first start since the injury. So yeah, just no chance he's playing more than 65. Unless, I don't know, maybe they have like some plan to ramp his fitness up. Maybe he plays 75, but there's just, he could get subbed at half too. So it's tough to look past Feyenoord, right? There's a lot of opportunity cost after that, at least from an optimal perspective, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, in defense of some of these expensive midfielders, we saw former RotoWire contributor Dane Chenault. He took down the king of the pitch ticket. He played a Phil Foden at relatively low ownership when people really weren't spending up at one of their midfield spots. So, maybe Danny Olmo only plays 70 minutes, but, Dane got away with 2 from Lois Apenda. Sometimes with these single eligibility slates, like that's just how it works out. And I think it was smart. So
right. Yeah, all great points. And Jack, Danny almost scored a brace over the weekend in those 56 minutes. So why can't he do that again in probably a better matchup,
Yeah, so it's just something. I mean, we've talked about that move a lot, Ryan, in the single position eligibility slates, just playing an expensive guy, because that leverage is like, that game theory is very direct in that case. It almost makes it very easy to choose game theory. You're going to suffer with some variance if you play that way, but at least it's clear that the expensive midfielders are not going to carry too much rostership. Because
it is a way to win besides just picking the right players. You know what I mean? You like give yourself an extra out to win, with game theory / leverage, just like than just trying to win by knowing ball.
Yeah, it might be the wrong slate to do it, but in this slate, all you really needed was Dortmund to fail, which could have happened. It's not like Dortmund have been in elite form. I see tweets that, the Dortmund manager is going to get fired anytime soon. So a team who's kind of in shaky form already. And then we didn't really like any of the spots yesterday, Ryan. I think the difference here is that I do think one of these 2 Bayern and Barcelona games is probably going to go off. It really only felt like we had one of those in the previous slate. When there's 2, it gets a little bit more thin. But I think all nice nuggets worth chewing on. Ryan, I love the Ademola Lookman shouts. We don't want to pump him anymore, but fun tournament play there if you like to play a little bit contrarian. I want to shout out Ousmane Dembele, only 9,000. It is technically a good spot for PSG. I mean, Atletico Madrid have not been terrifically good this season, and Dembele has a good floor. I'm extra interested in if Kang and Lee doesn't start, but just because you have some set pieces there, and you might be able to play a good player in a good spot at muted ownership because of that. So that's one thing I'm going to be looking out for. What do we miss at forward?
There's a lot. Like if we're shifting over to tournaments, you can get really creative. Martinelli being 5.3. Look, I agree with you that game is going to be, probably very dry, very boring. I could see it just being 1-0 one way or the other. But, Martinelli can get there without really needing to score or assist. I think he kind of did last game. He put up 11 or 12 points. And at 5.3, that's not bad at all. At Atalanta's players are priced all the way down for some strange reason. They're all sub risks, but I believe Rutegi is 4.1, CDK is 3.7. I mean, these prices versus Stuttgart are a little wild, right? They're not really floor players. Rutegi gets like a shot floor if he gets up there. But they as soon as they score or assist, they're gonna way surpass their price tag. So they're worth considering. And then a fun shout, which I don't think I'll play, but the Discord chat currently thinks he's, right up there as the best player in the world. Benfica's actor, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but Kareem, he has something like 10 goals. He scored on every single Champions League slate, and they've priced him down to 5.1. I mean, look, yes, it is Bayern, but look, we saw Bayern play against Barcelona last week and get absolutely torn up. Can he get another goal? Who knows?
I love that call. Ryan, you put on you gave Mo and I a lecture in the Arsenal Newcastle early bird slate when we had the nerve to think that you told us basically that Newcastle are obviously going to floor against Arsenal. And it makes me wonder if I can play Lisandro Martinez at 6,100 in tournaments. But am I digging too deep into my bag if I'm clicking on him when we have all these forward options?
Maybe not. It's a kind of a similar spot. Like, I think Inter are going to outfloor Arsenal here, most of the time. Martinez isn't one I was really considering here, but yeah, 61's not bad. He'll probably put up some type of floor, and if he scores, could pay it off. I like Mo's call on Retegui because you just don't need anything except a goal, and he's most likely to score for Atalanta, I think. I mean, maybe it's Lookman, but Retegui's been in decent form, and he's the center forward. I like that call. Antoine Griezmann, 7,300. Yeah, I just really can't stand Atletico Madrid, but it's the price tag stands out. He's gotten subbed around 70 minutes the last two matches, but he still has 90 in him too, I think. I don't know. It's not the worst to play Griezmann at that price. I don't think I'll do it. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to. There's a lot of opportunity cost at forward. So I do think when you start to spend the money, you're gonna want 20 points, right? If you play one of these cheaper guys, then you don't need it. Like Lautaro is right on the border there. I think it's okay, Jack. I mean, he can score. If he scores a goal, he probably gets you 20, and that's probably good enough.
I probably won't get there with Lautaro just because I'll only play two teams, but I don't know. I wondered because that type of play will have really good leverage, but there's so many good forwards, so maybe that's not the spot.
Also, that type of play, I know it's not a great matchup, but at least Lautaro has brace upside too, even against Arsenal, obviously. So that's something at least.
And we do know that Arsenal is reeling. They're just kind of in shambles right now. They can't stop getting red cards. They can't stop losing. I mean,
it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot for Arsenal tomorrow.
All right, good stuff all around. Let's hop into midfield. When I was making my dummy lineup, I just clicked Brest's Romain Del Castillo, 4,600. Seems like an okay spot. I think they're on the road to Sparta Prague. Yes, they are on the road. So it's not great to be on the road like that, but 4,600 for a share of sets in about 75 minutes. It seems pretty reasonable to me. It let me play three expensive forwards. And then Fabian Rieder, we have projected to start at 4,200. He takes at least a half role on sets in most of the games he plays. Again, not a full-time player, but I just think there's compelling mid-range midfielders overall, Mo. Who are you looking at the midfield position?
Yeah, I think they're both good shouts. I think I'd also flag Stiller. He was a lot cheaper last week, and I think this week he's been priced up a little, but not all the way up at 5.5 with a share of sets and a little role in the attack. I think can be a good shout. When I looked at the top and I saw Kimmich there, it brought me back to the last slate where I had nailed in the King of the Pitch, the Raphinha play. I was 10%. I was coasting, but I foolishly, and honestly, it didn't feel like a terribly foolish play, but I went Kimmich over Nunez, and I got absolutely roasted as Nunez had 2 goals and maybe an assist as well. And in the perfect script, I think you guys were making fun of me as I kept on saying the script is perfect, but they played from behind the whole time. Kimmich, as you can see, is a 90-minute player. He is like controlling the vast majority of sets. He did get most of the sets, and still he put up a pitiful, like 4 or 5 points. 4.3. Lovely. Thanks, Kimmich. And and it was just so sad to watch that I think I had to eventually turn it off. So look, I'm clear. Well, all I'm saying is I'm clearly biased to evaluate this Kimmich play, but I think at 8.4, there's no way I'm going there, and I'm not sure that other folks could justify it as well. So I think there is a lot of good value plays, but don't get sucked into the Kimmich play.
I mean, to be fair, all you have to do is play Julian Carranza, who's plus 125 to score, and then it's not so hard. So, I mean, Ryan, what do you think about Mo's dilemma here?
I have a little bit of a different take. I have a little bit of a different take. The last slate, Kimmich was away to Barcelona. Like at Barcelona on a 7-game slate. It's there's going to be some outcomes like that, I think. There was also like quite a bit of there was plenty of other guys to play on that slate. As Mo said, we had City midfielders. There's not many midfielders here. 15 points from Kimmich could be optimal even in tournaments with the cheap forwards that you have and with just midfield being weak. So as someone who doesn't play Kimmich normally, especially in tournaments, and I never play Kimmich for 8,400, there's merit here. Like if he gets you 15, there's a chance that it could, like, he could be in the construction. But on the other hand, there's some value at midfield. So like, I don't think Kimmich is like optimal that often, but he could be. Like Del Castillo, pretty good play. Seems a little bit too cheap. Also seems like he scores 6 or 7 points quite often and comes off at 70 minutes. I think this game is the worst spot on the slate overall. Does it have the lowest total?
I think that's Arsenal Inter that has the lowest total.
Obviously.
Lowest total. Second lowest
Okay.
total between Brest and
besides
Sparta
the
Prague.
Arsenal Inter game. But interesting to me about that game was Sparta Prague have both their starting wingers out, Burmasevic and Harrisleen, who are actually like their most dangerous players too. So I actually thought it was a little bit of a bump for Brest, but Brest like aren't an attacking scoring team. That game is probably going to be pretty dull. Like I was seeing if there's going to be some players on Sparta with Burmasevic and Harrisleen out, and like Karanine on sets for 4,800. I mean, he scored a goal on the last slate, but it was a long shot. Like he's kind of defensive. Kasim Lacey takes a few sets sometimes for 3,900. He's a little bit more attacking sometimes too, a guy that may have some upside for tournaments. But yeah, Reader. I prefer Reader to all those guys. I think if he starts, I would go with Reader. You can't expect like more than 70 minutes, but did see him play 90 once recently. He doesn't start. He starts like every other game, so you never know. But I think he'll take most of the sets when he's on, and I like that game environment. So I like Reader, and a guy that could be sneaky. A guy that could be really sneaky is Hwang and Boom for 60.
Yes.
I mean, okay, so
goes wild.
Yeah, so Paixão came off over the weekend at the 80th minute mark with a little bit of a knock, and I haven't seen an update on him. And actually, Hwang played more attacking over the weekend against Alkmaar. I think they played, and they have some absences. There's 2 center forwards and staying. I'll check out the formation, but could be in on Hwang tomorrow.
They played 4-2-3-1 over the weekend against AZ. He played attacking midfielder. He took 4 corners. He took a shot. He was locked in.
It's Hwang season.
It's Hwang season. I love the shout because that was really where I went. I mean, I looked at the Bayern midfielders and I said, Kimmich, you're not hurting me again. I looked at the Barcelona midfielders and I said, Casado, I don't know if I can play you and just hope for the bailout assist while you do nothing else. And then I eventually got to Feyenoord's midfield, and I saw that Hwang moved up a little bit, got involved in the attack. We know from his Red Star days that he is a, potent attacker in any way once he gets forward. So there's a lot of upside there.
Yeah, Hwang In-beom, he's I think a RotoWire After Dark show legend when Ryan and I were deep in the lab trying to figure out who was taking Red Bull set pieces, and he was near the min. A few very good games, especially this week 2 last year against Young Boys. I remember it well. That was a good slate, I think. So shout out. I was kind of going to mention Hwang In-beom as a bit, but I feel like 6,300 at 6,300. Yeah, we can definitely consider him. Mo, I forget if you mentioned this player on Stuttgart, but we're talking about expensive players you might be able to pay up for. Enzo Malo on Stuttgart. Where is Stuttgart? Oh my goodness.
You touted him last slate, and he missed a penalty in like the 85th minute.
Yeah, we've got him as a right winger for Stuttgart. I think minutes might be a slight concern, and I don't know, it hasn't been the steadiest floor for him lately, but he does take a couple set pieces here and there, and we're talking about maybe finding a leverage option, an expensive midfielder to pay up for, especially because, if Julian Carranza scores, then that sort of construction does feel a little bit live. I'm a little bit interested in Enzo Malo in GPPs.
Yeah, I think that's a totally fair shout. I'm not sure, Ryan, you might know, or Jack, do you know if Reader would come in for Furich or would he come in for Malo? Any ideas?
That's a good question.
I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think, you mentioned it. He had the PK equity last slate that he kind of wasted, but was there. I watched him play over the summer for the French national team under Henry. He was very good. He's kind of one of those like raw talents. Like he's up and coming. He's playing in a good team. He has plenty of opportunity. So, the world is his oyster. He is risky for all the same reasons, right? Atalanta are no slouches. His price isn't cheap, so he's going to need to do something to kind of pay it off. But in tournaments, playing at home for one of the more favored teams, definitely not a bad spot. The one question I had, which is kind of building off of what you had asked at the forward spot, Jack, is, again, we know that Arsenal play is dangerous, but if we're considering Martinez, are we considering Çalhanoğlu?
That was the last name on my list. I wanted to know if we could consider Hakan Çalhanoğlu. He's 6,500 back in, and he should be splitting set pieces if Fede DeMarco starts. Though I don't think Fede DeMarco has started in Champions League play. I just feel like Hakan, I don't know, it's not last year where he was getting a penalty every other game, and so he was like 95% in interleague slates. It is interesting, though, just because of the positional eligibility. I don't know, Mo, would you play Hakan? Or is that a little too gross for your taste?
I have like many of the same thoughts that you have, which is it's not last year's Hakan. You see some really dead game logs here. And so, but do we bump up the PK equity since he's playing against Arsenal, who can't seem to get out of their own way? I mean, that's really the question here. I don't know. Right now, I'm not very high on it, but it's a thin spot.
Let me just say that, again, looking more at the forward position, like we got like Igor Paichau in the mid-range. So I was worried that like opportunity costs would be really high for playing someone like Hakan Çalhanoğlu. But it really might not be, because the best plays, we have Del Castillo at 4,600. Fabian Rieder isn't even like really guaranteed to get like a good deal of minutes in the spot. So with opportunity costs low, I think I'll revise it. I think it's a fine thing to say. Scott O is asking in the chat if is Hakan fit to go 90 minutes. That is certainly a question as well. But maybe the takeaway from this conversation is you can take some risks at the midfield position and then maybe just kind of take some chalk at forward if you're going to go down that road. Ryan, any final midfield thoughts?
No, I was going to say you could take some chances at midfield. Yeah, because those punts can bust. Like, yeah, I think all those like the value we mentioned, I think you wouldn't be surprised if none of them score double digit points, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't be
completely
surprised
agree.
if any of
Absolutely.
those,
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
Del Castillo, Reader, and 7-8 points, like, yeah, there might not be that much opportunity cost.
Let's move on to the defender position. I thought that there was good value under 4,000 at defender. So normally I'm on the show stumping for Akraf Hakimi at 6,600. Of course, he's a good play in this spot. He's a good play in just about every single slate. But I wonder about the opportunity cost compared to the cheap defenders. I just talked at the start, like in one of my lineups, I played Trent Alexander-Arnold for 2,700 more than Juan Miranda. And, Trent, Juan Miranda has a pretty good floor. So Trent really has to have an elite performance to get there. So I wonder if the same thing is true for Akraf Hakimi. We have cheaper defenders. Maxi Mittelstadt is 3,900, and he's just been crushing with crosses in Bundesliga play. So I'm definitely interested in Mittelstadt. A former Premier League legend, Hugo Bueno, might be starting 3,100 for Feyenoord, which is vaguely interesting. But I think I had a better play written down at defender outside of Mittelstadt. Oh, Kenny Lala, split of set pieces for Brest at 3,500. Jules Koundé is playing 3,400. Not terribly attacking, but at least a name you can click in a really good matchup. Ryan, to me, the cheaper defenders seemed really good. So do you want to try to get up to a Hakimi, a DeMarco, a Nuno Mendes, or do you think you're going to be living in the cheaper range?
Yeah, I think I'll probably be living in the cheaper range. I just, I don't think Hakimi is, twice as good as these cheap guys, and he's priced almost double. But, there's like enough cheap options everywhere that raw points could win at the end of the day. So I'll get some Hakimi in there, I think. I actually think DeMarco would be a great play if he was going to play 90 minutes, but he's not going to play 90 minutes from what it seems like. You just thought that he might with Carlos Augusto out, but they just don't do it with DeMarco. They keep Dumfries on and bring on either a Darmian or whichever other defender center back didn't start. But still, these are the spots where, yeah, I think I see Arsenal can get a bit bombarded with floor. So DeMarco's still interesting. But yeah, Jack, cheap defenders, a lot of good ones, like you said. I was looking at Bueno for 3,100. Kenny Lala, not bad, obviously. Take some set pieces. Mittelstadt, I saw he got, I don't know why I'm kind of a Mittelstadt hater, but he's fine. See, he got subbed at 58 minutes over the weekend. He has big games, so yeah, especially recently, a lot of crosses, and I'm getting on board. I'm on board with Mittelstadt. I shouldn't say that.
They're keeping him fresh for the Champions League, Ryan.
Yeah, you might be right.
I unironically told myself that when I looked at his game logs. I'm like, oh, of course he's a stud. Of course they sub him off a little bit early because that's what they do with forwards. But
yeah, just not really a thing you'd expect at Leverkusen in a 0-0 game, but it doesn't take anything away. He's a good player. His game logs are ridiculous, actually, recently.
What do you think, Mo?
Yeah, I think you're probably both right about Lala. The price is so low that with sets, it's kind of hard to go off of him. I've just been one of my frustrated bits about Champions League this year is I've consistently spotted this way too cheap set piece taker, first for Monaco with Kamara and now Brest with Lala. And they never get to the heights that you want them to get. Lala's game logs are fine, right? But, for somebody who has pretty much a half roll on sets, the fact that it's only ever managed to be 6, 7, and 8, that's a little disappointing. Now,
yeah, Mo, you can fade Lala. I think you're on to something.
Yeah. And I initially, I think one of the big questions that you guys pointed out is it's all going to come down to what am I doing with my money? Because on a lot of slates, I would just lock Hakimi. I find Atleti to be the ultimate DFS black hole, in that not only do they not produce DFS points, they also are excellent at sucking the DFS points out of their opponents. And so do I think Hakimi will be playing up? Yeah, I do. Do I think that, he has the likelihood of like kind of that goal and assist upside? It's there, but again, there's like a little bit of like a mental reduction that I apply when I see somebody playing Atleti. And then of course the caveat on DeMarco, it sticks there, right? Like he's not going to play the full 90. So are you going to get enough versus Arsenal? That's also one where it's going to be, a team that is going to slow the game down and decrease kind of the potential for high DFS points. So I think it's a tough spot. I do think that it's going to ultimately be dictated by what you do with your money. I just looked at my dummy and I took Hakimi out and it left me with 10K for midfield after paying up for the highest like price goalkeeper on the slate. So obviously that's kind of like a go ahead and like reset button, like, rework it. But these are kind of the questions that we're all going to be dealing with because, candidly, I think Carranza is a great play, but I can't play Carranza value at forward, pay down at defender, and then get stuck with midfield where I don't think where there isn't a 10K play, and I'm not especially fond of those high-priced plays. I think that will lead me to play more Hakimi than others, but we'll see.
I mean, that's basically the 2v2 in my lineup. I think you just pay down for Carranza, and then, yeah, of course you're able to afford a better goalkeeper in Hakimi. So maybe in cash games that's even worth it. Although, I mean, eating Carranza in cash games, I feel like that's the type of mistake I've made a lot, and I've ended up tilting on the show.
I don't know. I don't think you can play Carranza in cash games.
I don't think you can either. Just to get Hakimi, he's not better enough than the other defenders. He doesn't take set pieces at 6,600.
You could play Paixão in cash
instead of Hakimi. Yeah.
Or, I mean, instead of Carranza, and then you like play an expensive defender and punt keeper, right, or something like that.
Oh, yes, you can do that. That's correct.
Yeah, it was a good sell by Mo. I'll be spending up for a defender on some lineups for sure. Yeah, I can't get my mind off DeMarco still being a decent play. So I'll probably have a couple DeMarco. And then I think Jules Koundé is a better play than Kenny Lala. So I'm going to have just with Barca. He's got some assist equity there. So pair him with a Barca stack.
On this thought, and you guys might be a little bit more reluctant to do it because it didn't work out with Dortmund. But if we shift the narrative on Barcelona and say, look, they're projected to score 2.6 goals. They're projected to be fully attacking. And we know that Fermin Lopez is too expensive on this slate, but we know that Casado is playing a role very similar to what Fermin Lopez was playing when he first got into the team. For 4K and a chance to get in the mix on some of the action, is he worth it? Maybe, and kind of if I tinker with my lineup a little bit, I end up with exactly 4K. So that's another person who I think at midfield, if you decide that you don't want to pay up for the Kimmiches or the Milos or anyone else, and you want to go cheap, someone worth considering.
Fun shout there. One last name I wanted to mention at defender because I noticed he was taking some set pieces. This guy has scammed me in many interleague slates. Noel Molina, fullback on Atletico Madrid. Mo, can you just tell me I can pass on that play so we can move on?
I'm going to pass on that every single time. I have been scammed so many times by Noel Molina. These game logs, I almost want to call them liars. Like I know it's true, but it's just like I have played Molina so many times only to see him get subbed 45-minute like you see versus Real Madrid or 57-minute like you see versus Benfica. Like it's so often that Simeone is like, nope, I'm done with you. I'm going to go in a different direction. And he's going to be in difficult game script. I don't know if it'll be a draw or whatever, but it's a good chance that he'll be in a difficult game script versus PSG. I don't trust it, but this is soccer DFS. He's 4,200. If you're feeling crazy in tournaments, there are far riskier plays. So I'll leave it at that.
Ryan, any final defender takeaways?
No, not really. No. Sparta Prague might have really cheap wingbacks. Worth mentioning, maybe.
Kind of. I think we'll have to go deep into the SofaScore game logs and see how they did in
they have like defenders out too. I mentioned the two midfielders they have out. Like, I don't know, they might have some guys with upside that are going to play 90 minutes. Have to look into it.
That's worth looking into overall. I assume you used the time that Mo and I were tilting Molina to tell us the nuts at goalkeeper, Ryan.
No, actually, I had just seen you brought up Kunde's game log, and it looked pretty bad. But the recent games, like you can like kind of throw all those out. I'm not too worried about it. Keeper, yeah, I don't think I really have any thoughts yet. Let me see. Somebody else go first.
I mean, you can pay up. We like forwards in every single price range in this spot, and it's not too hard to pay up. So I'd maybe like to consider getting a goalkeeper who can win. I don't know. That's my first thought. Like, why can't I play the Feyenoord keeper or the Donnarumma goalkeeper? I really don't care that much. But it's easy to pay up, so I'm not necessarily going to say I have to spend down.
Yeah, I think my running theme here is going to be like, I could pay down, like on a slate where there were worthwhile options. I would absolutely take the risk on, Red Star keeper at home. Like, he's got the atmosphere.
Uh-oh. You're on mute, Jack.
We lost Mo a little bit with technical. He's about to tell us the secrets of goalkeeper overall.
I hear him like still talking like just a little bit here and there.
It's like the scene from Interstellar when Matthew McConaughey's character is like pounding on the on the bookcase. He just has to let us know. Ryan, I think I can safely say that on a 7-match Champions League slate, there
he's going to face a lot of shots.
Oh man. Well, if you can hear us, maybe refresh your feed, and then we'll try to get you back on.
What were you going to say, Jack?
I forget what I was going to say overall. I mean, okay, so we have Mo back. There he is. Welcome back, Mo. No worries. Mo, we were just talking about how you were about to give us the key to the city, and then you cut out. So
did it completely cut out? That's fantastic.
It did completely cut out.
You were talking about like somebody who had save upside, or so I don't know. I forget. It was tough to make out.
Yeah, I was just saying for Red Star, since they're playing at home and since they've got this really great atmosphere boost, I would be tempted on a slate where I had use for the extra money. But there's so many areas of savings here. It's going to be really hard for me not to just pay up for a keeper with good clean sheet odds and go with that.
Yeah, very reasonable.
not the magical take that you guys were hoping for.
Yeah,
I don't think there are any. I don't think there are any magical goalkeeper takes here. I like the 4,600 keepers. I think we're going to get a win from there. You got the Brest keeper, the Arsenal keeper, even the Atalanta keeper, all right there. And all of those guys are on the road. And so they all have big ceilings. So good chance like an 18-point score comes out of this middle 4K range. Throw Inter's keeper in there too. I mean, they could keep a clean sheet for sure. And then throw Sparta's keeper in there too for 4,900. So I like that range, 4,900, like down to 45 or whatever that is. Probably going to get a good score from there. But like optimal, yeah, I can see spending up like you guys say. Obviously, if you have the money, if I have the money, I'm going to spend up.
Here's a take, Jack, that's unusual compared to my usual takes. usually the risk with paying up at keeper is you have high like upside for a win, maybe a clean sheet, but very limited save equity. I think Barcelona's keeper has save equity playing in Red Star. Like, look, whether Barcelona comes out of the gate and just, scores a bunch of goals, whether it takes a while for them to get there, I don't think Red Star is just going to lie back and take it. I think that playing at home, they are going to show a little bit of bite, could have a couple cracks on goal, could give them a few saves.
Yep. Good take. Good take. I think the favored keepers are better tournament plays when they're on the road like that. Like, playing the Dortmund keeper today, he finished with 12 and you kind of know that that's like all he can get you. And, you're watching the games and seeing Mannion just absolutely peppered, and you knew it was going to go like that from the start. And it wasn't just Mannion, but he had a bunch of saves right away. And it's always happening with these weaker teams. So if you spend up, you really better get your clean sheet, unless you have a little bit of upside, like Mo said. I do like that with Barca, or with the Barca keeper when these teams are on the road in these smaller countries. For sure, they're going to face some shots.
The one thing I'll say about goalkeeper, and then we can close things out. I've been thinking about playing, do I want to play lineups with Harry Kane and Manuel Neuer in it? And sometimes I feel like I lose like these little outs where Bayern concede early and then, their attack just goes nuts afterwards. So on this biggest slate, one thing I like to do, and I don't know if I'm just like, it's a mirage or something, I just want to play a goalkeeper that has nothing to do with the rest of my lineup, like whatsoever. Not even caring about correlating for a clean sheet or anything like that, because I sort of want my fullbacks to be able to have to chase a game. And so when you have that optionality and, you can just click David Raya when you're not going to click many interpieces, that seems like a pretty fine way to approach. So that's just one thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
yep,
and
I agree with that.
Since Actor Koglu is going to score this slate, Neuer becomes an even riskier play, since that clean sheet equity is going to be gone very quickly. So even more risky to play.
Shout out to a friend of the show, Big Turk, in the Discord. Gentlemen, that was about 52 minutes. I think that was a comprehensive look at the slate overall. So I think the show was too good. Any things you have to get off your chest before we close things out?
No, we're just going to get back in the win column tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so. It's been a struggle bus for me lately.
That's it. We got to get this ticket, get this W, and, good luck to all the listeners.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Best way to support the show is to be a subscriber, rotowire.com/soccer trial. Like, subscribe, leave a little comment on our YouTube video. We appreciate all the support. No, thank you, Diego, for listening. We'll see you over the weekend. We got Premier League. No one works harder than us. So shout out to us and shout out to the subs and the listeners. Good luck tomorrow, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Good luck, everybody.